Hey everybody, I'm going to be installing my Dashcam today, the Blackvue DR900S, and I'm going to be hardwiring in my Blackvue battery, hardwired directly into the fuse box using an antifuse, and the camera wire will be neatly routed through my pillar. Just got to take the little weather stripping off of that, and up and under the headliner, because there's a gap right underneath here. You can neatly route wires through, and on this car there's like this little sensor bar area, and there's a gap on the side to make it neat. I'm gonna have the wire tucked in underneath, and so it'll come out to the side right into the camera. And the wire that runs all the way back to the car is going to be running up the top. I'll be pulling the welder stripping off as I need, all the way down through the hatch to the rear. So I'll give some highlights as I go. First, I have to locate which fuse is only on when the car is on. And for that, I'll be using a multimeter. Alright, to locate the power fuse that I'm going to be using, I first confirmed that they all had power with the car on. Now I'm confirming which ones no longer have power, so that way I know it's a switched fuse. My multimeter here is set to volts, DC volts. I'm touching the negative to a screw here on the interior panel, which is the ground, and then you just touch the positive to the interior metal piece on one of the fuses. And you see the numbers going up there on that 20 amp, that 25 amp. These two 15s, however, $12. So I want the fuse that does not have power. And there's a 15 down here. And nothing. Let me verify again here. And there's nothing here. So it looks like I'll be using this bottom fuse. And to give you another closer perspective, when I'm touching the probe, you can see on either side of the number, there's like a tab here. That's the metal P part of the fuse. So you want to touch it into that on the other side. Bugs flying around me. So that's what you have to press in to verify the voltage. And I was using this screw here, which is the ground, which acts as a ground. And for the battery, I'm just using two connectors, power and a ground. So I might try to get into that or another spot. Here's the harness for the hard wiring. ACC, ground. I can rip this off if I need to, and this will be attaching to my antifuse. I use one of my own, which has more of a recessed piece, and it already has a 15 amp fuse in there. Here's the original 15 amp fuse from the fuse box. When you install these things, you want your original fuse to always be on the bottom. And there you go. Alright, let me tell you what's going on here. I have it wired up. Here's the fuse tap on the bottom, you know, the antifuse, and I crimped the connection over here. Apologize for the poor lighting. And there's a screw right in here. I undid that screw and I did the ground wire onto that, which fit perfectly. Once I pulled the screw out, it went through that loop, tied it down, perfect. And the wires coming out here through the back. And I have it plugged into the battery at the moment. And I have the switch. Here's an on-off switch. It says off, hardwire, or cigarette. So it's switched to hardwire right now. And it came pretty much fully charged. It connects through Bluetooth. And you monitor its setting within the app. And here's the app. And it shows DC volt in, 12.2 volts, 99% charge. Of course, my dash camera is not plugged into it right now, but that's the status of the battery. And when I turned it off, the car off, you're going to see the power, the DC in is going to go off. You see now the DC in is 0. So you're not draining your car battery while the car is off. And now really the next challenging part is figuring out exactly what spot I want to fit this. This is a fairly hefty battery. It has a good weight to it. I mean, I'd ideally like to kind of put it under here and mount it above that bar. But I have this foam here, and I'm not so keen on moving that foam away, but that would be a great spot to locate it if it could be tied down over there. So anyway, I got to work out where exactly that's going to go. Yeah, the rest of the install is pretty simple. The hard wiring and it's really the hardest part in locating where you want to put the battery. And let's continue on. This is where I'm at. I'm done with the hard wire. I'm using the fuse tap and 15 amp fuse spot. At most, the Power Magic battery will drain 9 at most, so whatever this is sharing can't exceed that amount, or I could pop the fuse. Ideally you'd really want a 20, but the only switch fuse I have here is a 15, unless I were to try to wire it into one of these empty spots, which I'm not up for doing at this time. And my ground wire is right up in here on this there's a screw right in there. So I pulled this panel out a bit, and I pulled the screw out and put the ring in, and it worked perfectly. Very limited mounting options for the battery. I mean, the neatest would be right under the dash, but that would require doing a custom bracket of some sort. Maybe putting it on these, and attaching it to one of these bolts, and a custom bracket so that way the battery could be attached to it and hang inside this well here. And if that were to fail for any reason, now you've got a safety problem, because that battery is heavy. It'll drop right down over here, get in the way of your gas and your brake. That wouldn't be an ideal situation should that come loose. So another potential mounting option would be to put it back in your trunk. You know, run the wires all the way to the back of your car if you have enough length, or splice it into your own wiring to extend it. But what I'm going to do is just put it under my driver's seat. It fits perfectly under there, and it doesn't impinge the seat's ability to move back and forth. My rubber mat extends down into the seat, so basically I'm going to apply a couple of Velcros to the back here on the other side, and basically it'll be Velcroed to my mat. And then then there's only 2 wires that connect, you know, for the setup: the DC in and the dash cam, which goes to the cigarette lighter plug. And I'm going to route this wire underneath this trim panel and here, and I'm gonna inevitably have to have a wire popping out here, but you know, that's about as clean as it'll get, you know, and it'll run right into the battery. So pop in again when that's all done. Well, that was a pain in the neck, but I did snake it through. It's down all the way from the top through the bottom. So one more wire to go and I'm all set. So to help me get the second wire through, since the first one's already through, I don't need to worry about running the wire again, the hanger, to yank it, which was a pain. I'm just going to tape this to the end and then run it all the way through, and then I'll get through there a lot faster. So it worked out as expected, and both of my wires are through the bottom. The power cable and the cable that runs to the rear camera. Okay, my hanger's through to the other side, and I taped the end of the wire onto the end here. This is looped, and I have a tape. Now I'm going to try to slowly snake it through, and as necessary I might massage the slinky portion to massage it up as needed. So it's a success. I snaked the thing with a hook, and by hand I brought it from here to here. I've got a little bit of tape residue from the duct tape from the hanger. I would have preferred to have used electrical tape, but I seem to have misplaced mine. So yeah, all that's left to do now is reattach these pieces, and I'm going to loop this around, leave the extra in here, and all you're going to see is just a tiny bit of wire coming out the trim panel once it's connected. So that wasn't too bad. I actually had enough space here to reach my fingers in underneath and press up, so that way I could get this wrapped around. And the same here, I had enough room to get my hands in, push it down as I wrap the rubber around. So now I just got to put the pins that I pull out to close the bottom part back, and then seal this up here. So I used a little glue gun to get that adhesive off the connector, and I coiled up the extra wire and tied it off. And this is all that's going to be sticking out once I put the panel in there. You're just going to see a fraction of a wire. So nice, super clean install. I have to pull this out, which is perfect, right through the grommet here, just like factory. And here's the end piece. The end with everything fitted. Very clean. Just a tiny. That's all the wire you see. Everything else is within the body of the car. Perfectly clean setup. A little top tip: if you're wiring your car up, the front pillar by the driver's door, I had a hard time getting it through this particular pillar. So it occurred to me that maybe there's a gap that goes between the plastic inside rather than going up through the top. And there was, and it was super easy. Used my hanger, did a straight shot through here, attached the wire, and got it straight through, no problem. If you're wondering where I settled on for the battery location for the Blackvue external PT14 battery, I decided to put it right under the driver's seat. It worked perfectly. I have the wires for the hardwire wire and the dash camera wire both go out through the trim and under here underneath the seat. So that's really the only exposed wire you see in the whole car from this job. And the battery itself is right under the seat. It fits here, it doesn't get in the way of anything, it works perfectly. And here are your two connections, the one that you have the dash cam plugged into, and that's for the DC power into the fuse box. So perfect. I'm just going to put a couple of Velcros on the bottom so that way it's not at all loose. But yeah, it's perfect. Perfect, and it's safe, and it stays cooler in that location than, let's say, mounting it inside your console or glove box or wherever. So yeah. So everything is wired up and done. By the way, if you use your own memory card, when you power up the camera, you're going to get an SD card error. So you're going to need to format it once it's powered up. You format it by pressing and holding the button that's on this side of the camera, and you hold it down until you hear a beep. You're going to then hear an audio message saying press once to reset Wi-Fi, hold for 5 seconds to format your SD card. So you're going to then hold it for 5 seconds to format the SD card, and that'll only take a moment, then you'll all be done and everything will be working. This camera can take up to a 256 gigabyte memory card, which I do recommend if you're going to be going with the extended battery, such as I am, so you can get the most recordings on that memory card without it getting overwritten. So anyways, you can see the camera installation is nice and neat. It's centered within the console. All the wires are hidden up within the various trim panels, up into the headliner and everything else. My extended battery I have mounted under the driver's seat, which stays out of the way. And so the wires come under my trim panel and then out over here. And the battery itself is right underneath the driver's seat, right in there. So it stays nice and out of the way, and it is good. Here's another look at the battery app monitoring my Blackvue D900S battery. Currently it's 100% charged. You're seeing the DC voltage in, the output, the battery capacity, which you would manually change if you added additional batteries to it. The charge time remaining, which is 0, of course. Usage time remaining is 0 because the car is on. The battery charges very, very quickly, definitely in under an hour. I'd say around 40 minutes ballpark. But yeah, it's very, very quickly. I'm averaging around 14 hours of runtime on this, not near the 20 hours that they advertise. Let me show you how this changes when I turn the car off. With the car off, now you see the DC in is now 0. And the charge time remaining, of course, 0. Usage time remaining will start shifting in a moment. There we go. 14 hours, 20 minutes. Usage time remaining. And that will move up or down relative to the power draw and so forth. But that looks about right. I've been, as far as how many hours I've been getting from it, which is still a far cry from the maybe 2-3 hours I would get running off of my car battery. And I don't have to worry about my car battery being depleted using this extended battery. And running for just a few minutes time will give me a couple of hours of runtime. And you hear the camera just went into parking mode. That's because the car's been stationary for a little while. So the car moving or not moving is what determines parking mode versus normal driving. Anyway, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If it was helpful, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me. And I'll see you in the next one.